Park, the Cone of Shame. Scott walked in the gate of Fork Park and looked around. She was early. Only Gus and Walter were there. Walter liked to tease other dogs and always had a trick up his paw. Rumor had it that he lived in the house behind the park, but no one ever saw his human or knew exactly where he'd come from. He just snored of appeared each day as Scott watched Walter chewing on an old rope toy. She wondered if maybe today was the day to crack the mystery of where Walter came from. But something else caught her eye. It was Rocky. Walter stopped chewing and watched Rocky too. The sight made him howl with laughter. Rocky was a very large dog, but he didn't usually have trouble getting into the park. However, today, something was hanging around his neck, and whatever it was kept getting caught on the edge of the gate, pushing Rocky backward. Then he tried to move forward. Gus lifted his jaws from the drift and squinted at the gate. What is Rocky wearing? Walter rolled sideways in the dirt, laughing. A cone of shame. A cone of shame? He's wearing a cone of shame. Scott found it. Walter didn't be mean. With some help from his human, Rocky finally made it. Rocky finally made it into the park, head drooping with embarrassment. But then the bottom edge of the cone caught on a mouth of drift, and he tripped forward. Rocky fell face first into the ground, and his tail flipped in the air. Maggie bounced into the park. Rocky, are you okay? She shifted from paw to paw. Scott walked over and dug away some of the dirt in front of the cone so Rocky could sit up. I think so, Rocky said. He scratched at the glaze, keeping the cone firmly around his neck. Why are you wearing that? Scott asked. Rocky shook his head. I'm not sure. My paws have been bothering me a little, but my head is fine. When I woke up this morning, the cone was already on. Scott mumbled. A mystery. She walked in a tight circle around Rocky, exclaiming the basic code from every angle as the big dog scratched at it. Rocky squinted at him. A guy, he asked. Well, you know a dog, Walter said. In the alley, he motioned towards the back alley with his nose. He can get that thing off. Rocky backed up a step, stumbling over his own paw and landing on its butt. I don't know, he said. I've never been to the alley before. You'll probably disappear and never come back, Sprinkless. What was frowning, and then we'll have to look for you. And I won't get my morning nap. Why are you always so grumpy, Sprinkles? Monkey asked. You'll be grumpy too if you were kept up every night listening to walls of tiny humans, Sprinkle mumbled. Rocky paced around until his cone hit the bench, pushing him backward. It is the only way, he asked Walter. Walter nodded, unless anyone else was a better idea. No one spoke up, even thought they wanted to help Rocky. None of them knew how to wiggle out a cone of shame. Rocky gave a long sigh. Okay, fine. I'll go if you're sure it's safe. Walter led the way to the back fence, and as Rocky, Maggie, Sprinkle, and Scott followed, Scott glanced at the human, but they were engaged in a living debate about where to put a new water fountain. She just hopped her human. Wouldn't wait to put out her blueberry. Otherwise, Tippy the squirrel might steal them all. Walter led them to a section of fence where the boards were low. He pushed the boards aside, and Rocky backed out through the opening so his cone wouldn't get caught. The other dog followed. The alley was fully in the shade. It felt a lot cooler and darker than the dog park. There were some empty boxes and big dumpsters. Judy, the local stray cat, sat on the top of one of the dumpers, licking a mossy, empty tuna can. A large brown and black dog with a thick tail walked out from behind a stack of boxes. Hi, Bones. Walter stepped forward and spoke in a hushed whisper. The two dogs looked back at Rocky. Rocky's eyes darted nervously to Scoot, who gave Rocky an enjoying smile. Bones stood in front of Rocky. What's the cone for? I'm not sure, Rocky said. My human was on the phone with the vet yesterday, and my paw has been a little itchy, but I don't know what that could have to do with his thing. Well, this is how it's going to happen, Bones said. When I step on the top of the cone, you pull your head back hard. Scoot's big ear twist. She knew his plan wasn't going to work. The gauze was tight. But before she could tell Rocky, He had lowered his head to the pavement bone, placed his two front paws on the plastic cone. Rocky put all his weight on the back leg and pulled the cone, pushed against his ear. All the skin and fur on his face smushed forward, covering his eyes. He pulled and tugged and pulled, but nothing happened. Huh? Bones said. I thought for sure that would work. He took his paw off the cone and Rocky fell backward, knocking over a tower of boxes. Rocky hung his head and snuffled back towards the dog park. I'm going to be stuck in this thing forever, he moaned. No way, we'll figure out how to get that cone off, Rocky, Scott said. Scott, Maggie, and Sprinkle followed Rocky, while Walter stayed behind with Bones. Once they were back in Bark Park, Scott walked around Rocky again, studying the cone. Oh, I get it now, she said as she traced the loop of gauze around the plastic cone. The gauze ended in a pretty little bow. Scott nodded to herself. I think I know how to get it off. Do you? The other three dogs barked together. Scott nodded. Then she hiccuped. Excuse me, yes, I do. She said, lie down, Rocky. Flocky flattened to the dirt. Scott tracked over an empty water bowl and tipped it upside down. When he stood on it, she was just able to reach Rocky's neck. She put her front paw on his shoulder and nugged the gauze tie with her nose until she found the end. Then she grabbed the end in her teeth, stepped off the bowl, and walked slowly backward until the tie came loose. Rocky gave his head a quick jerk, and the cone fell right off. Plastic cone. The gauze ended in a pretty little hole. Scott nodded to herself. I think I know how to get it off. Wait. Rocky gave his head a quick jerk, and the cone fell right off. I'm free! I'm free! Rocky barked. He ran in a circle, shaking his head and enjoying how it felt to flap his ears around again. He headed right over to the water fountain and got a longer drink from the bowl underneath. Then he started running in circles again. Scott and the other dogs watched Rocky dance in freedom, but it stopped just as quickly as it had started. Before anyone knew what was happening, Rocky plopped down in the dirt and started furiously licking his paw. Rocky, what are you doing? Sprinkles asked. My paw is so itchy, he said, between lick and nipping bite. Scott narrowed her eyes and walked over, inspect Rocky's paw. That was a big Sour Patch paw. There's a big snore patch right between his toes. Oh, I see. No wonder you were wearing the cone in shame. Rocky, you have a snore on your paw. Maybe that's why my human was on the phone with the vet. She was worried about my paw. Just then, Rocky's human walked up and slid the cone right back over his head. No licking, she said, tying it tight. Well, Scott shook her head. Mystery solved. What mystery will Scott dig up next? Find out in Bark Park, The Missing Bone.